Hello, hello. Welcome to today's Love Chat with the Love Twins. It is Michelle, and I'm so glad that you're here tonight. If you're here, go ahead and type the word hi in the chat so I know that you're here. All right. We got a great session for you today on Love Chat, and I'm really excited about getting started. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. All right. So first of all, I just want to say that if you made the time in your busy day to be here tonight, it is very, very appreciated. It's special to me, and I wanted you to know that. And it tells me something really important about you. It tells me that love matters to you. And if love matters to you, then you are in the right place. Okay. So I want to talk today about something that comes up a lot in our line of work with successful women, with women who are looking to transform themselves, to do a lot of personal development, and mostly in our world, who really want to experience extraordinary love, love with themselves and love with a partner. So this is something that comes up a lot, and it's not talked about a lot. A lot of people don't want to say it out loud, but we're here on Love Chat to talk about the things that really matter and the things that really impact your love life. So there's a moment, and if this is something that you've experienced, you can go ahead and tell me in the chat, that can happen in a relationship. It's a moment when you realize this doesn't feel like equal or a partnership anymore. This doesn't feel like it's everything that I want. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean that there's explosive arguments happening. It doesn't mean that it's a toxic relationship, because it's not. Something just feels off. If you've ever felt that in a relationship, and maybe even in a dating situation, go ahead and put yes in the chat. Maybe things were going great, you started dating, and then all of a sudden you start to feel like you're giving more time, more intention, and more attention to the dating experience. All right, so awesome. Now thank you for sharing honestly about that, because again, this is not something people like to talk about, but it's such an important topic. And, Gladys and I, we're about bringing you what's possible. We're also here to talk to you about what works and what doesn't work, and then how you can shift that around. So if you put yes in the chat, you might have noticed in those situations that it still feels like you both love each other, and it still feels like you're there for one another, but something inside of you is starting to feel tired. Something inside of you is starting to feel a little bit heavy. And it's not because you're asking for too much, because you're looking at yourself and you're making sure that you are not asking for, unrealistic things. And it's also not that you're bad at relationships, because that's what some people turn that into. And it's not that you're falling out of love. And that's a common mistake people make. They think that when things start to feel like it's a little bit more one-sided than the other, or the dynamic starts to feel a little heavy, that means that they've fallen out of love, and it couldn't be further from the truth. So you're not falling out of love if you're feeling this. What's usually happening is simpler than that, and it goes deeper than that. So it could be, there are a couple things we're going to talk about today. I'm going to tell you the first thing that could be happening, and you let me know if this is the one that resonates with you. It could be that you're growing at one pace and your partner's growing at a different pace. You're not at the same pace right now. And if that lands, just notice how that feels in your body for just a second, and don't push it away, just notice it. And here's what Gladys and I see all the time. At the beginning, things feel pretty balanced. And I got to tell you, it's not always going to be balanced in a relationship. Relationships have their ups and they have their downs. Relationships, sometimes somebody's going through something that feels very challenging, and the other person steps in. Like when my mother, those of you who've been following us for a while, you know that our mom passed away last year, or actually in 2024. And that year, 2023 and 2024, were very challenging years, because all of a sudden there's this whole new world, this whole new situation with my mom that She was ill. She was not mentally well. She started deteriorating. Her health was very poor. And I was remembering this the other day in a conversation with Arnie, working from, the waiting area in a hospital, or working in the room with her in a nursing facility or in a hospital. And at that time, Arnie was doing a lot of the lifting. And then there are times where I've done a lot of the lifting. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in the giving, in the doing, in the what you're bringing into the relationship. It feels like you're the one that's doing that a lot, or maybe your partner feels that way. So let's talk about it from your standpoint. Okay, maybe everything seems to be going pretty balanced, and then slowly you become aware of certain things. Like, you're the one that's bringing up the conversations that are important to be talked about, or maybe you're the one who goes and smooths things over, or you're the one that keeps the emotional connection going, because otherwise there's no connection. So let me ask you, how many of you have felt like you're the one that's the emotional center in a relationship when you've been in relationships, or you're the one that's putting in more emotional equity in either a dating experience that's could lead to a relationship, or a relationship or marriage? So if you feel that you've been the emotional center a lot of the times, go ahead and type the word me in the chat. And when this is happening, it can feel, well, you start thinking to yourself, am I carrying most of this? Because it certainly feels like I am. Am I the only one that's in this? Because it feels like I am. And here's the part that makes it confusing. It's not explosive. It's not tragic. There's still love there. There's history there. There's still connection there. But you're feeling like there's a distance happening, and you're the one that's trying to pull it towards yourself. Yeah, some people are saying, I feel this every time I'm in a relationship. Yes, I resonate with this. So here's what can happen. You might start to tell yourself, oh, it's just a phase, it'll pass. Or, oh, they're just stressed. But the stress seems to never really phase out. Or it's not as bad as, and maybe you compare it to your parents' relationship, or another relationship you were in, or a relationship that you are familiar with. So you start comparing, or you just grip in and I can handle this. None of those situations are very inspiring. But if you've been through that, like, oh, it's just a phase and you push it off, or the stress seems to keep going on, or it's not as bad as, or it's not that bad, I can handle it. Just check in. Have you ever said that to yourself? Now, you might be able to handle it, but here's what starts to happen. Emotionally, you're going to start to feel very lonely inside of the relationship. And that kind of loneliness is heavy. You may have even heard Gladys or myself say, when you feel lonely inside of a relationship, that's the loneliest lonely there is. Now, here's the part that might land even a little deeper than what I said so far. Most of us, and this is why this is important, most of us learned very early on how to be the strong one, the understanding one, the flexible one, the low maintenance one, even when it's not appropriate to do that. Even when it means that now, maybe some of you as a child were responsible for taking care of your parents. Maybe that was an unsaid thing, but it was happening because your parents either weren't able or capable. Maybe they weren't around as much. Maybe you had to take care of your siblings. Maybe you found you were taking care of yourself a lot. And so you learned how to depend on you and take it on, even if it's not something that you're supposed to be taking on or taking on by yourself. That sounds familiar? Type yep in the chat. Yep. So here's why we're having this conversation, because first of all, we want you to have amazing relationships. And we also know that sometimes these patterns that have been embedded in us, in our nervous system, in our bodies, the way we've done things, it becomes just the way it's going to happen. And it doesn't feel foreign when it's happening in a relationship. it actually feels very familiar. And if it feels familiar, then there may not be awareness about this is not going to head in a really good direction. This is actually going to end up you feeling resentful, him feeling resentful. And if you catch this early, and especially if you can do your heart work to transform these behaviors, then you can mitigate that risk of that happening and really keep the connection strong in the relationship. Now, here's the thing. Even though this may not be healthy, and even though it feels familiar to be the strong one, you're not thinking this isn't healthy. You're actually thinking this is what love feels like. Being the one that carries it, being the one that holds it, being the one that's the emotionally responsible one, being the one that has to hold it all together so it doesn't fall apart. That starts to look to you subconsciously like that's what love feels like, or that's what love is supposed to be. So then what do you think is going to happen? You're going to keep perpetuating that because that's the way love has shown up in the past. But it's draining you emotionally. It could drain you physically. Now, I want to say this, and I really want you to let it land, because yes, you are strong, and yes, you are capable. And just because you can carry it all doesn't mean it's yours to carry alone. I'm going to say that again. Just because you can carry it all doesn't mean it's yours to carry alone. And many times this can become a role that you accepted and you didn't even know that you accepted it. You kind of were, you were brought up into it, or you got used to being that way. I know for me, it was that way. I grew up, for those of you who don't know, Gladys and myself, we grew up in a very unstable childhood. And so we had, our mom and our stepfathers were either very volatile in their anger. One was physically abusive. There was alcoholism involved. There was mental illness involved. And so when growing up in that kind of environment, I learned how to take care of myself and take care of others. And many times I was taking care of others before I took care of myself. And this started showing up in my relationships, but unbeknownst to me. Unbeknownst to me, I became that role. Well, what kind of people did I start attracting? What kind of men did I start attracting? And even people in my life, people who needed me and people who were emotionally taxing. Like, I was drained in a lot of my relationships. And that goes for work, that goes for friendships, because I was carrying it all. If this is resonating with you, put in the chat, I hear you. So I know that this is resonating with you. Now, there's one other reason I'm going to talk about why things can start to feel unbalanced in a relationship, but stay with me on this one, okay? Because it happens subconsciously. You don't even know you stepped into that role. And over time, even though you can do it, it's going to start costing you something. It costs you peace of mind, which is something that you cannot put a dollar amount on. Peace of mind, it costs you confidence, it costs you where you'll trade stability for real intimate connection. Keeping things like even keel, not stirring up the pot. It'll cost you choosing the quiet and calm, even though internally you don't feel that way, over being honest, over being expressive. Because you may not even know how to express it in a way that's not going to turn into some shouting match or a total shutdown and stonewalling. And then what starts to happen is love becomes something you're trying to manage, not something you're experiencing and receiving. And that's why a lot of women will be like, yeah, I want it, but maybe after this happens, maybe after my children graduate, maybe after I work on myself a little bit more, maybe after I solve every single one of my limiting beliefs. P.S. That's never going to happen. We have limiting beliefs, we have fears. It's not about never having them. It's about having the skills to be able to rise above them, to be able to transform them, to be able to break through them so that they're not running your life. Those old stories are not running you. So love is not something that you manage. It's something that you experience and receive, but not in this context that we're talking about. And then, so let me stop there for a second. If that comment that I just made, that love becomes something you manage, not something that you receive and experience, that hit a little bit here, like a little bit home. I just want you to know you're not alone. Just take a breath. Breathing is so important, and we don't realize how often we stop when we experience a startle in our nervous system. We don't realize how much we stop breathing, but you can breathe and bring yourself to a state where you can keep listening, because this is really important. Now, I want to say something, and if you need another breath, you can take another one. Okay? I say something else that really might surprise you. So that's one way that relationships can become unbalanced. Here's another way. And this is one that I see just as often as I see the other one, where somebody keeps taking everything on their own, and then they start to feel lonely, and it starts to feel like you're being taken advantage of, or everybody uses you, or everyone is take, and you're give. And you're giving because you think that the more you give, eventually the person's going to notice by your great behavior that it's time to give back. But that's not going to happen if you're attracting people who are attracted to someone who overgives. Because that energy is going to attract people who don't give as much, or don't have a lot to give. Not from a mean place, not from a cruel place, but it's just not there for them to give. And I've seen so many women stay in relationships like that, or keep attracting relationships like that, because they don't know how to rise above it. So the overgiving can create that sense of something's off in the relationship. I'm going to share with you another one that can create that as well. And remember, all of this is leading up to, those of you who've been following us, we're leading it up to Love Vision 2026, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. But why are we talking about this today? It's not to bring in a heavy topic. This is real life. Real relationships happen in real life. What we see on the Hallmark Channel is not real life. Okay? Very rarely. Even Lifetime is not always real life. And you don't have to wait till your life gets tragic or dramatic, or you spend years and years alone trying to figure it out on your own, when there's another way to get to where you want to go. So we're bringing this in because part of people's love vision is what you really want to experience is so distinct and so distant from what you've experienced that it starts to convince you that it's not even possible, when it absolutely is. Even more so, you start to convince yourself that it's not possible for you, or it's going to be hard, and it doesn't have to be. And yes, it's available for you. So let me share with you this other dynamic that can show up in relationships. And this one, like I said, it might surprise you. So most relationships don't start feeling one-sided because someone suddenly stops caring. That is not the way that it happens. And it doesn't happen because someone stops loving the other person. A lot of times there's a lot of caring and there's a lot of love that is still there. It's just hard to feel or experience. And that's a very different thing. Because here's what changes and is essential for a healthy, loving relationship that's going to last a long time. What's missing is not love. What's missing is emotional safety. Both people feeling emotionally safe inside of the relationship. So what creates that feeling where there's a lack of emotional safety? One thing is there are arguments that are never repaired. So this is why avoiding or placating all the time, or even causing arguments all the time because there's been some pattern of drama, like dramatic love is love. All these things, they don't get resolved. That creates an emotionally unsafe relationship. A relationship where you feel like you can't really speak up because the other person is going to get upset, or your partner feels like they can't speak up because you're going to get upset, or you're going to cry, or your feelings are going to get hurt. And someone in the relationship, or both people, are having the experience of walking on eggshells. That's going to create emotional unsafety, not feeling safe to feel the emotion that's coming up, to talk about the emotion that's coming up, to resolve what's coming up. Another thing is if somebody feels like they're being accused of something or suspected of something that they're not doing or criticized all the time, and they're having to deflect from the criticism, that can also create an emotionally unsafe environment, an emotionally unsafe relationship. So, and maybe being honest feels risky instead of actually being something that can relieve tension, because the skills aren't there to discuss it in a way that actually creates a sense of opening and relief. So what starts to happen is either one or both people begin to close themselves off. They begin to close their heart off. And it's not to punish the other person. It's a protective pattern. It's to protect themselves. Sometimes people close themselves off to protect the other person from their emotional outbursts. So from the outside, it could look like, oh, they're just not showing up for me. Oh, they don't care about me. That's how it could look on the outside. But on the inside, it feels like I don't know how to be open, how to be myself, how to be at peace here anymore. And then the walls start closing in. Other times it could be resentment, because when things don't get resolved, it builds up resentment. It builds up confusion, that lack of safety. So again, none of this is explosive. The resentment isn't explosive. It's quiet. It's like there in the background, in the shadows, but you know it's there. They know it's there. And it's the kind that builds and builds and builds. And if you've been holding it on, you've been strong for so long, or you've been pushing things away, you've been, trying to manage everything for so long, you let things go for too long, you're not going to realize it until you or they are fed up. And that's when effort starts to drop. That's when you stop being sweet with one another. The romance falls away. Being present, not on the phone, not on the TV, but actually being with each other starts to fall away. And again, it's not because love disappeared. Love is there. But what happens is when hurt is unspoken, when upset is unresolved, when someone doesn't feel like they know how to or can express themselves, this is what happens. It starts to feel unbalanced in the relationship. And sometimes it's not even any of the emotional things I just talked about. Sometimes it's just life showing up. Somebody feels a lot of pressure at work, or they're carrying a lot of stress because of a personal situation that's going on with family stuff, kids burning out. That can also create this kind of situation, because a man can care deeply about you and still be running on empty. And the same goes for you. If you don't have anything else to give, you're going to self-protect. So then the relationship gets whatever's left at the end of the day when everything else is done, which isn't a whole lot. And that can create some unintentional pain. All right, so tell me what you're hearing in the chat. What's resonating with you? Are you starting to see maybe there have been times where you have felt emotionally unsafe, and why? Is it because you felt like you didn't have the ability, the capacity to speak up, or the other person didn't listen, or you felt like you were so afraid of messing up that you just wanted to keep things calm, or you keep giving and giving and giving because you think that at some point if you give, you're going to get back? And none of this is in judgment of anything. We are identifying, acknowledging, giving voice to what's already there anyway. Because until you actually give it a voice, until you actually acknowledge it, you can't do anything about it. So caring too much, letting things go for too long, and then sometimes what can get in the way is life. And another thing could be just different personalities, different roles that you've taken on without realizing it. Somebody becomes more of an emotional leader, the planner in the family, the one who checks in, and the one who's going to hold the relationship together. And then what happens is if you're doing everything, Those of you who are in your relationships, you feel like your partner doesn't do anything and you're doing everything, consider that it's not that they're lazy. Consider that you've taken up a whole lot of space. So what happens when you're doing it all, and this is where in our work we talk about being the irresistible woman and allowing yourself to receive, to be provided for, cared for, protected. Because what happens is if you're giving and doing too much, the other person is going to lean back. They actually learn to just lean back and let you go. Yeah, absolutely. This is your last situationship. Sounds just like this, because that's what happens when things are not. And I don't even like saying balance, because I think that things are constantly going like this. But Gladys and I will say when things are not in harmony, when they're not clicking. So if you are in relationships where it feels like you're doing everything the other person's done, or maybe you're in a relationship right now where you feel like that. And I'm just talking about the doing. I'm talking about the taking care of things, planning things. What happens, you're training people to lean back, and it's not because they're selfish. That's the way they're being trained to be with you, to be in relationship with you. So if you find yourself saying it's one-sided, you're often not describing that there's a lack of love and that's what's one-sided. You could be describing a relationship where the dynamic has shifted and drifted to one side. And I really want you to hear this part, because this, if any of this that I've said resonates with you, it is not proof that you're bad at relationships. It's not proof that relationships are hard or that you're not good at them. It's not proof that you chose wrong again. It's not proof of any of that. What it's proof of anything is that there are emotional patterns that show up in relationships, that stress, if you don't know how to handle it in an effective way, can influence a relationship. That unspoken hurt has the potential to build and build and build and build a wall between you and your partner. And that there are invisible roles that you may be taking on that are influencing your relationship. That's all it's proving. Nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with them. Something's not working. And when I say something not working, it's not about trying harder, because real love, like mutual love, doesn't come from working harder at something. It doesn't come from explaining something better. And it certainly doesn't come from criticizing your partner or correcting the way he's doing things. Letting him know what he's doing that's wrong, or telling him what to stop doing. That certainly is not where real mutual love is going to come from. It comes from being with someone who's emotionally available, who's emotionally mature, who knows how to discuss things that when they aren't working, and they're bound to not work sometimes. It's how often does that happen that you want to look at. But things are not going to work sometimes. And how do you have those tough conversations in a respectful and effective way where love stays present, where respect stays present, where the care that you have for that person stays present? That's a skill that gets to be developed. So acknowledging that there are certain fears that you have about what you are or aren't able to do or experience, or even what you have experienced in the past, or acknowledging that you have some beliefs that could be negatively impacting your relationship or your dating experiences that could lead to a relationship, or that there are patterns that you've either developed throughout your life or inherited from someone else by watching them. And knowing how to break out of all of this so that you can show up in a way that is actually authentic to you, that you can show up in a way that's a real match for the kind of relationship that you want to experience, and in a way that promotes love, attracts and promotes connection and intimacy and passion and fun and peace, which are all the things that we get to experience in love. That's what we're acknowledging here. Not that there's anything wrong, or even that there's anything to fix about you or the situation or your partner or future partner. You can have the kind of love where passion and connection and intimacy and great communication, and both people are putting in the same level of attention and intention into a relationship. That is absolutely possible. where you wake up in the morning and your first thought is not anxiety about what's not working, but gratitude for what you've experienced. Now, does that sound unrealistic? Or does it sound like something you really want? And if it's something that feels like it's what you really want and it's very connected to what you want, type "I want it" in the chat. Give it a voice. Send it some power. And I want you to know that kind of love is not unrealistic to want. And it's not even rare because we have so many. I know I experience it every day. I know my marriage is like the best relationship I've ever been in, regardless of what I went through, regardless of the patterns that I had and the ones I still have. I have matched up with someone who is a great human being, the best human being I know. And the love that we have for each other can supersede any situation that we're going through. You know, Arnie was actually going through something very challenging, and he's still going through something very challenging in a couple areas of his life. Somebody he loves is ill, and in another very stressful situation. And where those kinds of situations can tear people apart or have them want to go to their own corners, we came together and we continue to come together, just like he did for me when mom was passing away, just like he did for me when my younger son moved away. That's how you know there's something solid there. And I'm not the only one who has it, and neither is Gladys. We have so many clients. We had one the other day who's been married now for 5 years. She's like, I never knew it could be this great. Every day waking up, knowing I'm with the right person, I made the right choice. So it's not rare to be able to create it. And you do get to choose it. And I'm saying this, I'm using those words very carefully because a lot of women skip this part. They just want it, but they don't choose it. They don't choose to do what it's actually going to take to have it. And choosing unfamiliar over familiar, and choosing a little uncomfortable for a lifetime of joy. Because choosing differently means you got to let go. You got to let go of what you can predict. You got to let go of what feels familiar. You got to let go of what doesn't work, so that you can open yourself up to create and receive more of what you may not be used to, but is really what you want. You open yourself up for that. And that's exactly why we created Love Vision 2026. Now, this event is a 3-day event. It's happening January 30th through February 1st, but it's not just an event. And it's very different than other events that we have. I want you to hear this, because I was trying to think, how can I say this? And I thought, this is the perfect way of saying it. It's not just an event or another event, because none of our events are just, right? Another event. It is a reset point. It's a reset point for you in resetting whatever hasn't worked, whether you're in a relationship or not. A place where you can stop carrying all that old relationship baggage and all those habits and all those thoughts that aren't serving you, and not bring them into a new chapter of your life and love life. And on that weekend, we're going to get really clear on a few things. We're going to get clear about who you really are outside of the identity that got created inside of whoever you became as you were growing up, as you had to survive life, as you survived this situation or that relationship. You have to get really clear on who you are and what kind of partnership, romantic partnership, actually matches with who you are and what you want to experience, what matters to you, and what works for you in your life. And you're also going to get really clear on what you are no longer available for. Like, you actually get to RSVP no to the things that don't work, to the things that keep building more layers in the wall between you and what you want. You're also going to get really clear on how to become a match for what you desire, even if it feels unfamiliar. One of the things, and you've probably heard us say this before, that is a block in change, is that the minute things start to feel uncomfortable, people stop. Some people who said they were going to go to the gym every week have already stopped going to the gym, and we're only 3 weeks in, 3.5 weeks in. Now, some people who are doing that are not going to make up some story about, oh, see, I'm not committed. Oh, see, that's why things don't work out for me. That's one way to relate to it. Another way to relate to it would be like, let me get really curious about where that comes from, and even more curious about how to turn that around, especially if similar behaviors are showing up in my relationships, in my dating life. So you got to choose to create standards for love in your life that actually match the woman that you're becoming, not the one you once were. We're all having the opportunity to have this year to become a newer version of ourselves, not better, but one that's a real match for the kind of love we want. And you get to choose that, because if you don't choose it, if you don't choose your standards, if you don't set yourself up for what you really desire, your nervous system is going to choose for you. It's going to choose whatever it recognizes. And if it's not set up to recognize what works, lifts you up, brings you peace of mind, joy, a feeling of authenticity, fulfillment, then it's going to pick what brings everything else that's not that into your life over and over again. That's why some of you experience the same dynamics over and over again. It's like a different dynamic, and I should say the same dynamic in a different body. Different face, different body, different man, same experience. So if that's this year, 2026 is the year that you say game over on that game, there's a new game called The Love I've Always Wanted and the Woman I Get to Be. And if any part of tonight resonated with you and felt like it landed in your heart, then listen up. Because if what I've been talking about that doesn't work felt familiar, and you're telling yourself, oh, it'll be fine, it won't. You'll survive it because you've survived it until now. But you want fine or you want fantastic? That's a choice. So if you want fantastic, if you want to wake up every day, and I'm telling you, I'm not kidding, I'm not making it up. When you wake up next to the right person, every day you will know that. When you go to bed next to the right person, every day you will know that. You will feel it, your body will feel it, your nervous system will receive it. And then what happens is you want more of it, so then you create more of it. So if any of that sounds like something you want, and beyond wanting, you're truly committed to creating, I want to personally invite you to Love Vision 2026. Again, it's January 30th through February 1st. You're not coming to be fixed. You're coming to create a new version of love and learn how to make that version of love that your heart truly desires a reality for yourself. You get to drop being the strong one and learn how to recognize when someone is a match early on. And if you're in a relationship, you're going to learn how to stop doing the things that keep creating chaos and conflict and start doing the things that create connection and passion and intimacy, deeper levels of love, peace in your relationship. You're going to come to learn how to communicate in a way that inspires authentically aligned love. And if that's something you want, then you get to click on the link, reallovevision.com, reallovevision.com, and get registered today. Everything's going to change that weekend, but only if you're there. And I can say that, and I'm making that kind of promise. And I'm making that kind of promise because you deserve a relationship that feels like a partnership, not like a project. And that's what this event is for. Let me see. So what if someone stops talking to you? So Should I ask not to talk to him anymore or ask him if I said something wrong? It's just hard when they live so far away and you're trying to get to know them. He works all the time. His wife died 3 years ago, and sometimes he'll post about her on Facebook stories, Facebook memories. Okay. So, Lisa, I hear you, and I hear that this is someone that you're getting to know, and it sounds like you care about this person. And I can answer your question, and I will. I want you to know that where this is coming from is exactly where you want to be at Love Vision 2026, because there's something that is in front of you that's not giving you the experience that you want, and the confusion about how to handle it is going to be the thing that probably this is something like this. I would bet, not knowing you, but just having done this for so many years and coached so many thousands of women by now, that this is not the first time something like this has shown up. So this is what I mean, like those patterns that show up. So if he stops talking to you, I'm going to say this, and we'll do some coaching on this at the event, but I want you to know, you all, to get a sense of how we talk about things very honestly. When someone stops talking to you, if the first thing that comes up is, did I do something wrong? Get curious about that, because that's some of that behavior about carrying it all. If he's someone that you just met or someone that you've been talking to, there's also, this is why coming to the event is going to make a difference. There's also, dating is, people are dating multiple people. So unless you all have had a conversation about only talking to each other, he could be talking to somebody else. He could have, just lost interest, which doesn't mean anything about you either. And it certainly doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. But he's communicating something by not talking to you. And what if you actually said, I know he's got his life. He's, he works a lot. He's got his things. You know what? I've got my things too. And I want to attract somebody who, even when things are going on, makes 2 minutes to send a text, 15 minutes to have a conversation. Getting to a place where you know that you deserve that and how to create that, that's where I want you to be. And, I don't know why he would post memories other than that's somebody was special to him. I know people in my life who have lost people that they love, and some of them do that after they're in a relationship and some of them don't. But I don't want you to spend a lot of time trying to figure him out. Instead, ask yourself, why is one of the first things that came up for me, did I do something wrong? Why is it that I'm willing to take actions? This is the lack of harmony or lack of balance that this person isn't willing to take. What if I just stood right here in my power going, I deserve it, and see if he shows up so he can meet you where you are at that level? Those are the standards I was talking about. So I hope that made a difference for you, Lisa. Thank you, Teresa. I'm so excited for you too. And this is a whole brand new event and a whole brand new experience that we're creating. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. It is January 20th. We're 20 days into the new year. And I want you to hear something, and I want you to hear it like, wow, that's possible for me. We just got notification yesterday that we already have our first wedding engagement of 2026. We are 20 days in, and we already are celebrating the first wedding engagement of 2026. I'm not going to say who it is because she's going to post it on her own in the Heart's Desire Sister Circle. Now, last year, we celebrated 5 wedding engagements and 6 weddings. These are real women with real lives, some of the same fears, some of the same patterns, some of the same holding on to everything that you may be carrying. And they came and they worked with us. And now they're in the relationship, marriages, lives of their dreams. And if it can happen for one of us, it can happen for all of us. You just have to know how to create it. You can be one of our 2026 success stories, but only if you show up. So go ahead and click the link, reallovevision.com. Register. come ready to have an amazing experience, to experience massive breakthroughs, and to create a very clear love vision. If any part of this conversation touched something real inside of you, do not ignore it. Pay attention. Some of you think your intuition's broken. No, you just put it on silence. Don't ignore it. Can't wait for you either, Teresa and Lisa. Tell your friends about it. Create a movement with us. A movement where this year gets to be the year of love. Not just for one of us, not just for two of us, for all of us. There are women in your life who you sit around and complain about men with. Invite her to come too. Because you want to start having a different kind of conversation. Words create reality. All right? If you want something different, you've got to take a different action. This is how transformation begins. So I've really enjoyed my conversation with all of you. Thank you for participating the way that you have. If you're on the replay, let us know what resonated with you. When you're in, say I'm in so that we can celebrate with you. Click on the link, reallovevision.com. And until our hearts meet again, and I see you at Love Vision 2026, always remember that you are loved. Goodbye for now.